2016 offered electrifying glimpses into worlds far beyond our own and uncovered mysteries deep on planet Earth. Discoveries pointing to how humans evolved and progressed. Revolutionary medical breakthroughs with the power to alter who we are. And new research that underscores the impact we're already having. And extraordinary scientific encounters that may tell us much about the origins of the universe and solar system, including our own planet and our place upon it.
T-minus 3, 2, 1. Ignition and liftoff of Juno on a trek to Jupiter.
406 years after Italian astronomer Galileo pointed his telescope to the stars and discovered Jupiter's 4 moons, what's been described as the most advanced spacecraft ever made, Juno, is probing the largest planet in our solar system.
Welcome to Jupiter.
And we're in orbit. We conquered Jupiter.
Juno is scheduled to perform 36 flybys. The first and closest occurred in late August. 2,600 miles above Jupiter's clouds, the onboard cameras captured images of the planet's poles, which show us that Jupiter is unlike anything we've imagined.
Even though we've been studying Jupiter for hundreds of years, we still don't know some pretty basic things about it. We see these jet streams moving back and forth across Jupiter's atmosphere at hundreds of miles an hour, but we don't really understand what drives them.
We don't know how it's built, how the structure works inside. Maybe most important, we don't know how Jupiter was made.
Jupiter lies 500 million miles from Earth. But unlike our world, this gas giant remains virtually unchanged since the solar system formed. It's an archaeological treasure trove, the key to unlocking some of our most enduring questions.
How did the Earth get formed? Where'd the elements come from that made up life itself? That's one of the things Juno's seeking to answer.
Getting close enough to help unlock Jupiter's elusive secrets is fraught with danger. This image reveals what Juno is up against. Intense belts of radiation, swarming with high-energy electrons, seen here in red.
These electrons just eat electronics. They just kill the spacecraft. So Juno has a radiation vault where all the sensitive electronics are shielded behind walls of titanium.
It's sort of like we're sending an armored tank to Jupiter.
To help protect Juno, the spacecraft is placed in a polar orbit that avoids the deadliest radiation belts at the equator. And by orbiting pole to pole, Juno is revealing the whole planet like never before. In October came the news that Juno had peeled back some of the mystery surrounding Jupiter's iconic horizontal stripes. Using a unique set of instruments that measure energy, microwave radiometers, Juno penetrated the planet's cloud layer, revealing that those multicolored bands extend up to 250 miles beneath the cloud deck, hinting at the chemistry in Jupiter's atmosphere. Scientists now know the planet contains water, but exactly how much remains a mystery. By finding an answer, they hope to solve a great scientific puzzle. How much water ice was involved in forming the planets?
We know this is important because we're still trying to explain how did Earth get its oceans? We don't really know.
A magnetic field much like Earth's flows from pole to pole.
Jupiter has the largest magnetic field in the entire solar system. In fact, Jupiter's magnetosphere is the largest structure in the entire solar system.
10 times more powerful than Earth's magnetic field, it creates some of the brightest lights in the solar system, Jupiter's aurora. In August 2016, using Juno's infrared camera, specifically designed for the purpose, the spectacle of Jupiter's southern aurora was captured for the first time ever. A second close flyby in October failed to deliver any images, after an onboard computer temporarily and unexpectedly went into safe mode. But there are more than 30 additional sweeps planned during Juno's 2-year tour of duty, opportunities that hold enormous scientific promise.
I think maybe one of the most fascinating questions that Juno is trying to answer is, what's the recipe for solar systems? If we can help just answer that one question, that would be so great.
Nine years before Juno arrived at the planet Jupiter, another spacecraft, New Horizons, embarked on its journey to Pluto and beyond. In July 2015, 7,800 miles above Pluto's surface, New Horizons began a scientific photo shoot of the planet. In late October 2016, the last of those images reached scientists on Earth.
As the data has come down to the ground, our science team has been kind of like docs in an ER in an emergency room, just triaging the different data sets like they were patients being wheeled in and bleeding. But we hadn't had time until the data was all on the ground in October of 2016 to go back and start to more seriously reflect, to intercompare data sets, for example. We're seeing many kinds of geomorphologic evidence that Pluto may have had liquids on its surface in the past, and epochs of much higher atmospheric pressure, much more like Mars, or even atmospheric pressure that was higher than Mars.
Pluto's far more active and diverse than even my imagination said it was going to be. That's okay, because, every time we've gone to a new place, we always find our imaginations are never up to the task.
Each time you see a planet for the first time ever, it's really amazing. There's just so many surprises, and you learn so much more because it was a distant point of light, and now suddenly it's a world that you have maps of, and you can count the craters, and you can see what's going on the surface, processes.
One of Pluto's most whimsical features is also one of its most captivating for scientists. A heart-shaped area spanning nearly 1,000 miles. In November, after analyzing images generated from New Horizons, scientists reported that the heart may provide new evidence for a vast subsurface ocean. They zeroed in on one area of the heart called Sputnik Planitia, or Sputnik Basin. Using images from New Horizons, scientists modeled a great ocean lurking beneath this cold heart, feeding the icy surface. They theorize that over millions of years, the icy load became so weighty, it caused Pluto to roll over and line up in its current orientation with its moon, Charon. The New Horizons team will continue to mine the extraordinary images, uncovering terrain features seen nowhere else in our solar system, teasing out the geologic origins of this phalanx of strange ridges. For example, details as small as 0.8 of a mile, some 330 miles across. The New Horizons spacecraft now has Pluto in its rearview mirror and is heading deep into the realm of far-flung chunks of ice called the Kuiper Belt. The expectation? That New Horizons' journey will expand our understanding of the universe, as did another significant 2016 discovery. Ripples of energy predicted by Albert Einstein 100 years ago. it's been called the most significant scientific breakthrough of the century. A revolutionary discovery. A never-before-seen layer of cosmic reality.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have detected gravitational waves. We did it.
What they detected was the equivalent of a motorboat's wake. Created in time and space by the collision of two gravitational monsters. Two black holes, more than 60 times the mass of our sun. So powerful, even light could not escape their pull. The black hole collision released more energy in its final moments than all the stars in the universe combined. By the way, that wave was created 1.3 billion years ago.
The first time I heard about LIGO, my reaction was, this is crazy, it will never work.
The Laser Interferometer Gravitational Wave Observatory is a device more sensitive than the world's most powerful optical and radio telescopes. It took more than $1 billion to build the dual detectors, one in Washington State, the other 2,000 miles away in Louisiana. These two ears on Earth allow scientists to triangulate the location of massive cosmic events.
This instrument is just an engineering marvel.
LIGO's interferometers consist of two L-shaped detectors. Inside, a laser beam is fired along a stainless steel vacuum tube to a set of mirrors 2.5 miles or 4 kilometers away. The lasers act like a ruler for the arms, precisely measuring the distance between the two mirrors.
The mirrors themselves are tour de forces. They're the world's best mirrors.
The mirrors weigh more than 90 pounds, or 40 kilograms, and are so sensitive, tapping one with a simple toothpick creates a vibration that lasts for hours.
We get to see the waveform of a merger. This tells us interesting things about the physics of black holes. It lets us test all of our theories, all of our ideas about how they form, about how they behave, and how our current theories might be lacking.
Einstein's theory proposes that gravity isn't a force at all. He believes objects like stars, black holes, and even planets distort space and time around them. Imagine this space-time as a fabric stretching throughout space. Any object with sufficient mass will instantly change the shape of that fabric. This warping of space and time is what we experience as gravity.
Gravitational waves are ripples in that space-time that come about when objects, massive objects, accelerate. They tell you things about the nature of the universe that you can't get from any other source.
Until now, virtually everything we know about the universe has come from either optical or radio telescopes. But unlike light or radio waves, these gravitational waves can pass straight through matter, unchanged.
Gravitational wave detectors are a new kind of telescope. So they allow us, to be able to use gravitational waves as a messenger.
This allows scientists to tease out some of the purest physics of the universe. LIGO may be an incredible feat of human engineering, but it almost missed the rare event. LIGO was still in test mode and not fully operational when the gravitational waves slammed into Earth, lasting just a few minutes.
What was really impressive about it is that we weren't actually even running, in the sense that we weren't in a formal science run. We were just sort of going through engineering tests, but our detectors were working properly. My first reaction was, we got it, but my second reaction was, but now we got to prove it.
It took 5 months of checking and rechecking, but the gravitational waves were the real thing. just as Einstein predicted.
One of the ways that gravitational waves could really revolutionize our understanding of the universe is if we could see gravitational waves from the Big Bang. It's going to allow us to peer back to the beginning of the birth of the universe in a way that no other kind of astronomy can. Gravitational waves can go right back to the beginning of time, so we could see the birth of the universe. We're going to be looking at the universe for the next 100 years, 200 years, in a completely new way.
How did life begin on Earth? Did it come by chance? From storms of comets and asteroids smashing into our planet 4 billion years ago? In 2004, the European Space Agency launched the space probe Rosetta and its lander module, Philae, to travel more than 300 million miles to chase after an ancient comet, less than 3 miles wide. Space missions have confirmed the evidence of amino acids and organic particles in comet clay dust, and some scientists believe that it was a comet that brought the original ingredients of life to planet Earth. Rosetta was on a mission to find out. In 2014, after a 10-year voyage, ESA spacecraft Rosetta located Comet 67P, an object just a few kilometers long, hurtling through the depths of the solar system. Philae was dropped at a height of 22 kilometers, or twice the cruising altitude of an airliner. At the exact time calculated, Philae touched the surface of the comet at less than 10 meters from the targeted point. The calculations proved to be perfect. But Philae's anchor harpoons failed to fire, and it rebounded away. Trapped in the shade of a cliff, Philae was unable to recharge its batteries as planned, before they would die in about 60 hours. A maximum of instruments were activated. 75% of the planned scientific data were transmitted to Earth, including proof that comets can carry heavy water. During the 2 years, ESA researchers have been gathering data, comet dust, and images.
From Rosetta, images are dramatic. For the first time, we can get a detailed analysis of the way the outbursts of comets are formed.
And in the case of 67P, how it may break apart. In October 2016, scientists reported growing stress fractures in the comet's narrow neck region. Images recorded by Rosetta revealed that between 2014 and 2015, surface cracks in 67P had grown by several hundred meters, and new fractures had formed. Modeling force stresses on 67P, researchers found the comet's end lobes are flexing, a relentless push-pull that, in time, could lead the comet to buckle and fold. The discovery could help scientists better understand how such forces shape and reshape our solar system. Scientific instruments have captured some primitive dust for scientists to examine. Among other things, they identify some glycine. Glycine is an amino acid that is present in every living being.
The discovery supports the hypothesis that comets could have brought the building blocks of life to Earth, and also that pre-life is universal in the universe.
In addition to the discovery of glycine, scientists detected phosphorus, another element of DNA. They were also surprised to find free molecular oxygen gas surrounding the comet. Rosetta's 2-year mission ended on September 30th, 2016, with a controlled descent to the surface of Comet 67P. Rosetta worked right up until the end, taking new measurements and pictures as it descended and landed at its final resting place. Under the baking heat of the Israeli sun, scientists are uncovering mysteries on our own planet. A team of researchers has set up camp in the hills of Western Galilee. This region has always been rich in Middle Paleolithic remains. It attracts archaeologists from all over the world, keen to unravel the story of the Neanderthals, who lived here for over 200,000 years. But today, they're here to prove that the Neanderthals were not living here alone. A chance discovery in a cave has shocked the world of archaeology.
The chief prehistorian archaeologist from the Israel Antiquity Authority, he called me and said, "Oh, there is a skull found in a cave in the Upper Galilee. Would you like to come and go down and see the cave and see the skull?" This is the small chamber where the skull was found. So when I went up and they showed me the skull, I said right away, this is an anatomically modern human. It has some archaic traits, sure enough, but roughly the general appearance of the skull, the general morphology, the size of the skull, everything testified that this is a modern human skull. We didn't know the date of the skull, so we had actually to date the skull directly.
The skull's owner lived nearly 55,000 years ago. Could it be the missing piece of our own human history?
When we first looked at Manot's skull, it seems modern in its general form. It's very small in size compared to Neanderthal and even compared to anatomically modern human. In modern humans, we can see that the lateral walls of the skull are descending almost vertically downwards, as we see it over here in Manot. The lateral walls are descending downwards this way in Neanderthal, but as you can see, the lateral walls are not descending vertically downwards as in modern human, but rather going downwards in an arch shape. We have some peculiar archaic traits in the Manot skull. First of all, we can see that the back of the skull, what we call the occipital region, is protruding backwards. Okay. Protruding backwards, we call it bunning. It is a common characteristic among Neanderthals, as well as among a very early Upper Paleolithic skull in Europe. We don't see it in modern human. A modern skull, first of all, we can see that the occipital region is not bulging backwards. It's just descending vertically downwards. It's like there is a continuation from the parietal bone down to the occipital bone to the base of the skull.
Piecing together the evidence from Manot Cave, a picture emerges of two human groups, sharing the same land, creating the same toolkits, and hunting the same types of animals. But a first meeting was not going to be easy.
The first time in human history where anatomically modern human actually met and saw the Neanderthal were here in Israel. Imagine the astonishment, first they suddenly realizing that they are sharing the world with another human group. And most probably, based on many genetic studies, they also changes genes between themselves. You know, everybody has a dream. It's a kind of a lifetime discovery. I mean, your chances to find such an important piece, an important part of human evolution, which allow you to shed light on one of the most important phases of human evolution, the evolution of our own species from this time period that really plays a major role in the story of humankind.
How did we evolve from different human groups? We know they mixed their gene pool together, but what favored one group over another? Could an ancient epidemic have played a role? Viruses have been infecting humans for millions of years. Evidence of ancient viral DNA is in our own genome.
The reality that we're coming to now is that each and every one of us are a combination of a range of different organisms that have met with some mutual arrangement, a cohabitation that allow everyone to survive and actually move through to the next stage of evolution. We shouldn't think of viruses as a scary part of our machinery. They've actually helped us evolve.
While science still seeks to understand how ancient retroviruses helped us evolve, outbreaks of viruses such as HIV worldwide and the Ebola epidemic in Africa have killed more than 34 million human beings in the last 30 years. And now, there is Zika. Zika, the latest viral pandemic, is barreling through South America, Central America, the Caribbean, and Puerto Rico. It has obtained a foothold in southern Florida, and locally transmitted infection has also been reported in Texas. In adults, Zika can cause mild flu-like symptoms. In unborn children, the virus can lead to microcephaly, which in many children is fatal.
Microencephaly means that the head of an infant is much smaller at birth than is normal, and oftentimes that's due to malformation of the brain and central nervous system. It appears the virus is somehow able to cross the placenta, enter the fetus, and then start to replicate in the nerve cells and then the central nervous system of the fetus.
And microcephaly is not always present at birth. In November 2016, doctors in Brazil reported cases of children not born with the abnormally small heads that distinguish microcephaly, who went on to develop the condition months later. Developing a human vaccine for Zika is one of the ways health officials plan on fighting this pandemic.
We need to develop these vaccines, we need to test them, and then we need to do some level of studies in humans to see how efficacious they really are. Vaccines can often take several years to get put in place.
But there might be another way of fighting the virus, and it involves vaccinating the mosquito rather than ourselves. Research pioneer Scott O'Neill of Monash University had already started to fight dengue, a similar virus to Zika, by vaccinating mosquitoes with another simple organism that occurs naturally inside certain insects, a bacteria called Wolbachia. Just as some gut bacteria can be good for humans, Wolbachia is beneficial to insects. It protects them from invading parasites like the dengue, and maybe even from Zika.
One of the beauties of this method is that it gets passed from one generation to the next in the mosquitoes, and so it sustains itself. So once it's been implemented once, we hope it gives ongoing protection for many years.
Another weapon against Zika is the new class of vaccines which use genetically engineered DNA to stimulate a specific immune response. DNA vaccines have shown promise in combating Zika in mice and rhesus monkeys. Scientists are also looking at how to eliminate Zika in mosquitoes with a breakthrough gene editing technology called CRISPR. It's been called game-changing, the biggest biotech discovery of the century, with the potential to cure some cancers and inherited diseases, and revolutionize how we treat deadly infection, such as HIV, AIDS. A breakthrough co-invented by Jennifer Doudna at the University of California, Berkeley.
I think the CRISPR technology is just, it's very exciting because it's going to enable a lot of science to be done that was impossible to do in the past.
CRISPR is a tool that allows easy and precise editing of our DNA, the genetic blueprint held inside every one of our cells. It stands for Clustered Regularly Interspaced Short Palindromic Repeats. Originally discovered in bacteria, CRISPR are short bits of DNA that make up part of its natural defense system. When a bacteria encounters a virus with DNA it's seen before, it sends out a guided seek and destroy missile. On board, 2 strands of RNA, one of them carrying a copy of invading virus DNA. Also on board, a protein called Cas9, an enzyme that can cut DNA. When the guiding RNA pinpoints its target, the Cas9 moves in and snips the DNA like a kind of molecular scissors, disabling the virus. Researchers soon recognize that they can engineer this immune response to target whatever gene they want, even in humans. For example, editing out a genetic mutation that can cause cancer, replacing it with healthy DNA. The genetic equivalent of cut and paste in word processing.
It affords incredible opportunities, not just to do basic research, but great potential for new cures in new ways that were not possible before. So there have been other gene editing technologies before CRISPR. They haven't been as specific or as easy to use, but already one of those has been used to cure cancer in a baby.
1-year-old Layla Richards was dying of leukemia. When conventional treatments failed, doctors used a form of gene editing. Layla was cancer-free in just months, a world first. What CRISPR promises are many other stories like Layla's, helping people with a wide range of debilitating or fatal diseases.
It's widely available, it's relatively inexpensive to use it. You don't need special skills beyond sort of a basic knowledge of molecular biology. There's really not going to be a way to put the genie back in the bottle, I would say.
In October 2016, for the first time, a human was injected with genes edited to attack an aggressive form of lung cancer. The Chinese team conducting the trial will monitor a total of 10 patients for progress and any side effects. Researchers from the University of Pennsylvania plan to begin human trials in 2017. These first cautious steps will be to determine the safety of using CRISPR to edit genes in humans. The technology isn't foolproof. Right now, CRISPR editing isn't always accurate. Scientists are still trying to perfect the technology and work through the ethical questions it raises, including the big one: should we edit living human embryos? And if so, where do we draw the line? Gene editing technologies pose hard questions, but they offer tantalizing promise for new treatments and cures. As scientists continue to use CRISPR and other gene editing tools, DNA engineering will become safer and more precise. Today, gene editing is accelerating discoveries in virtually every field of disease research. And one of the most challenging diseases is Alzheimer's. Scientists have understood many of the molecular footprints of this devastating brain disease, but there is still no cure and no clear therapeutic target. Using genetically engineered human brain cells, neuroscientists have recreated Alzheimer's disease in a petri dish, providing a way to target prevention and test new treatments.
Know someone's at risk, see the early warning signs, and stop it. That's going to be how we eradicate Alzheimer's for people who are living now, who don't have it, and for everybody to come in future generations. Alzheimer's disease, we understand that first you develop this gooey material, the amyloid. The amyloid's toxic. It causes nerve cells to form these tangles, which choke the inside of the nerve cell. The tangles spread from the dying nerve cells to healthy ones and infect them, more tangles. And then the brain reacts to that with inflammation that causes even more nerve cell death, and at some point there's dementia. But that's not the only way to get dementia where you have some of the same pathology. Bangs to the head, concussions, several of them over 5 years. Let's say in 5 seasons of the NFL, can create damage here and here and here in the brain. No need for amyloid, directly to tangles. And the tangle spread, the inflammation, dementia. We call that chronic traumatic encephalopathy, CTE. In the battlefield, one big bomb blast that the soldier survives, and the blast wind from that bomb makes the head bobble back and forth really fast. And that creates lots of damage all over the brain, where the blood-brain barrier is compromised. And you have so many insults in the brain, instant tangles all over the brain immediately, dementia within no time at all. So in dementia, tangles and inflammation are driving the process. The question is, what initiates those tangles? Is it a bang to the head? Is it amyloid over decades? Is it one big blast? Could it be emotional trauma, where you make cortisol in the brain that kills nerve cells after a bad divorce or losing a loved one? Lots of ways to get to dementia that's due to the tangles and inflammation. But if it's Alzheimer's, most likely you got there through decades of accumulation of amyloid. So find drugs to stop the amyloid and the tangles and the spread of that pathology and nip it in the bud. But we still have 5.4 million people with this disease in this country right now, where prevention is too late. And when we think about how to treat them effectively, how do we fix the brain that's already been affected, I believe that hitting amyloid and tangles, you throw that in the cocktail, but it's not sufficient. You need to hit the inflammation, because that's really the stage of disease they're at. And this inflammation is killing more nerve cells than anything once somebody already has this disease. So that's why I'm working so hard on that component now.
Chronic inflammation is the culprit of many diseases, including diabetes and heart disease. As science continues to seek a cure, the best prescription for preventing Alzheimer's is exercise, healthy diet, and probiotics. The unseen chemical pathways in our bodies, long understood by traditional and integrative medicine, suggest that our mind, heart, and gut connections just may hold the keys to protecting our health. Our bodies are home to tens of trillions of microbes that are vital to our health and have enabled the human species' long-term survival. Without them, we couldn't fight off disease, have a healthy immune system, or even digest our own food. Yet only in the last decade have scientists started to unlock the secrets of the human microbiome. The epicenter? Our guts.
All of these microbes within the gut weigh about the same as the human brain. The average adult has around 3 pounds of microbes in our gastrointestinal tract. We're essentially as microbial as we are human with regard to number of cells.
In 2016, a team of scientists, led by researchers at the universities of Illinois and Minnesota, the J. Craig Venter Institute, and the Academy of Sciences of the Czech Republic, published a study that gives us a glimpse into how lifestyle and diets in industrialized countries like the United States are impacting the vital ecosystem of microbes in our guts. The gut microbiomes of traditional hunter-gatherers, called the Baka pygmies, were studied alongside a group of traditional agriculturalists, the Bantu, whose lifestyle includes a more modern diet and the use of certain antibiotics. The gut microbes of the Baka pygmies were diverse, complex, and resilient. That abundance was noticeably less among the agricultural Bantu. And the depletion was even more extreme in the guts of people living in the United States.
We tend to eat, more refined foods here in the U.S. In general, our fiber content that we consume in our diet is only about 12 to 18 grams per day. And what we recommend is that everyone should essentially be doubling that.
A broad supply of fiber and nutrients, like those consumed by the baka and the bantu, is necessary to nurture the growth of the microbes that rely on different fibers for energy and to survive. The diversity and resilience of our gut microbes is now being linked to mental illnesses like anxiety and depression, and physical ailments like obesity and autoimmune disorders.
The microbes in our gut are not only harvesting energy from foods that our own human enzymes can't digest, but they're also helping to be more resistant to pathogens that may enter into the system. Some studies have shown that you can predict if someone is going to be lean or obese depending on the microbes that are present in their gut.
Research into our human microbiome is new and rapidly evolving, and our reliance on our microbial partners and their impact on our health is only beginning to be understood. But it's not only the microscopic inhabitants within us that are providing insights into human processes. In the cool, deep waters of the Arctic Ocean lurks a mysterious, slow-moving beast. They've lived in the shadows for hundreds of millions of years. But an incredible new discovery has shown a scientific spotlight on the Greenland shark. Julius Nielsen, a marine biologist from the University of Copenhagen, and a team of fellow scientists found some of these creatures could be as old as 400 years. By far, the oldest living vertebrates ever found.
It is pretty amazing. We don't expect a vertebrate to live nearly that long, and that's the point of why we're so shocked. We just thought that vertebrate physiology would prevent that kind of possibility.
Studies to determine the shark's age revealed it could live much longer than other vertebrates, almost double the previous record holder, the bowhead whale, and trailing behind the Aldabra giant tortoise, the beluga sturgeon, and humans. Raising the question, what is it about the shark's biology or environment that could help us understand why we grow old when we do? So far, little is known about why the species live so long. It could be because they live in icy waters. But how well will it adapt to a changing climate and temperature rise? In an area at the other end of the temperature extremes, scientists are asking the same question. Death Valley National Park. Vast, dry, and unforgiving. But things aren't always as they seem.
And the last thing you expect at the end of miles and miles and miles is this kind of oasis, this hole that's literally in the middle of the desert.
It's home to the Devil's Hole pupfish. The fish, roughly 1 inch in size, is native to Devil's Hole and can be found nowhere else on Earth. And its relatively small population makes it arguably one of the rarest fish in the world.
Everyone be safe.
Fish counts were established in the 1970s and occur twice a year, once in the springtime and once in the fall. Each count occurs over 2 days, with 4 dives scheduled daily, an integral part of the conservation and recovery effort at Devil's Hole.
The best description of the Devil's Hole pupfish is the canary in the coal mine of global climate change. If you want to study the impacts of climate change before it really affects everybody else, pick an organism that is extremely sensitive to climate change.
Scientists don't know how these tiny fish ended up here, but they do know that they're in great danger of disappearing.
There are several hypotheses of why this population has declined over the last, say, 15 to 20 years. One is to climate change. The atmospheric temperature is getting warmer, and it's projected to even get warmer in the next 20 to 40 years. That slight increase in atmospheric temperature can push a daily high above what the eggs can handle.
In April 2016, 3 men broke into the pool area for a drunken party that ended in at least 1 pupfish death and egg and habitat destruction. For the protectors of this fragile fish, this was a cruel blow. Increased security may save their habitat from future intruders, but how do we save the pupfish from rising water temperatures? These creatures already live at the extreme end of habitable temperatures. Any small shift in temperature could affect their ability to reproduce and survive. All around the world, scientists are racing to collect and interpret data of Earth's changing climate. Countries have recognized that climate change threatens not only the endangered pupfish, but the future of us all.
The Paris Agreement will shape nearly every aspect. Gertrude Clement.
In November 2016, a landmark accord to address climate change went into force. More than 190 nations committed to a 2015 Paris Agreement, pledging to combat gas emissions and rising global temperatures. That same month, climate scientists underscored the urgency. After several months of summer melt, Arctic researchers observed sea ice was setting record lows for accumulation, even as winter approached. And November air temperatures were 20 degrees centigrade higher than normal. Worldwide, 16 of the hottest years on record have occurred since 1998, with 2015 and 2016 outstripping them all. Some scientists believe this warming trend may be a new normal.
Our model predictions are that by 2100, there will be another 60 centimeters of sea level rise.
It's affecting every aspect of human life on Earth.
Our models predicted that the Amazon forest could die in the 21st century because of climate change. What happens to the Amazon affects weather patterns throughout the world. So if the Amazon forest passes a tipping point, we will feel it across the planet.
The crew aboard the International Space Station not only enjoys an amazing view, they are key participants in recording the story of Earth's visible changes from space. ISS is a unique human observational platform. The crew live in their own sustainable and self-contained system, in which they're also testing how to best live in space. In April of 2016, the ISS received delivery of a new habitat called BEAM. How would you like to go lunar camping in a pop-up tent? Or orbit Earth inside a luxury space hotel? Inflatable space modules will help make these travel dreams a reality. Lightweight, yet durable enough to withstand the hazards and extremes of space. These modules will also offer new habitat options for future exploratory missions deep into space. NASA is testing this technology, and on April 8, 2016, the Bigelow Expandable Activity Module, or BEAM, was launched to the International Space Station. The BEAM weighs about 3,000 pounds and inflates to a size of 13 by 10.5 feet. Constructed with impact-resistant, multiple-layered skin, the layers are designed to stop space debris from breaching the main structure and will not burst if hit and punctured, but will instead develop a slow leak that can be repaired. The BEAM was transported to the space station inside the SpaceX Dragon supply vehicle's trunk. Flight controllers at Mission Control in Houston, Texas, maneuvered the station's robotic arm to extract BEAM and attach it to the rear port on the Tranquility node, which has docking capability. On May 26, NASA performed its first inflation attempt. But BEAM got stuck.
Yeah, Jeff, unfortunately we're going to have to stand down with the beam operations today. We've been assessing all the parameters here from the ground, and due to our set of no-go conditions and not seeing any noticeable movement, we're going to have to reassess further from here.
Okay, understand.
2 days later, the team finally succeeded.
85 seconds.
Here's the copies.
And the module was pressurized.
This marks the first crewed expandable structure in space, so congratulations to you guys. Thanks so much for your work today.
This began the 2-year mission of data collection and monitoring the structure. The ISS crew plans to enter the module 3 to 4 times a year to do checks and take samples. In the meantime, sensors inside the module will send data back to Earth. The beam test will determine how well the habitat performs and how well it protects against the radiation, space debris, and temperature extremes of space.
And we have ignition of NASA's Space Launch System's solid rocket motor powering us on our journey to Mars.
As NASA develops and tests new propulsion systems for deeper space travel, we may one day explore exoplanets with inflatable space modules packed along for the ride. Exoplanets are found orbiting stars outside our solar system. The Kepler Space Telescope, launched in 2009, scanned the Milky Way on its mission to catalog planets that could support life. Once the telescope's dust cover was ejected, the planet hunting began. NASA has confirmed the finding of more than 3,400 exoplanets. At least 20 of these exist within the habitable zone of stars. Proxima Centauri, a red dwarf star located 4.2 light-years away from the Sun, is our closest stellar neighbor. In August of 2016, a team of international astronomers confirmed the existence of the intriguing exoplanet, Proxima b, in orbit around the star.
Kepler's amazing. When I was a student, we knew about 9 planets. That was it. We didn't know really how stars formed. We were coming off an old theory which said planets are very rare. Indeed, what we can say today is that statistically, there are more planets out there than stars. Every star has 1 or more planets. That's a game changer. That's hugely amazing. We're trying to understand where there might be habitable real estate around these other stars. That's kind of what we talk about with the habitable zone. Not too hot, not too cold, just right. On the other hand, life is a bit more complicated than a fairy tale, right? And so what else is needed? Do you have to have a magnetic field to shield you from the winds that are coming off the star, these ionized particles? Do you have to have plate tectonics? Do you have to have these land masses move around and help you to cycle carbon and sulfur and silicon into the mantle, out onto the crust and into the atmosphere? And the absolute closest star has a planet, and it's the type of star that we're really puzzling over because there's so many. And now we get a chance to invent special purpose instruments that can maybe just do this really hard exploration. That's a pretty cool present from nature.
The discovery of Proxima b is generating enormous excitement and provides a new target for breakthrough starshot. an initiative aimed at designing computer chip-sized space probes, capable of exploring the Alpha Centauri system within a generation. In the meantime, Proxima b beckons us with the age-old question, are we alone?